It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Grace has a fantastic question. She says, when you're young and have been investing for a few years, how do you give yourself the freedom to spend without knowing your needs in retirement and what those are going to look like? She says, I'm investing 36% and she's saving 14%. She says, I want a vacation, but I can't rationalize it.
So she's investing 36% and then saving. So I'm assuming that's like cash.
That's what I was assuming too. Yeah,
so that's
it's differentiated from investing.
Look, I'm an accounting major. That's public math. So it's always a little scary. But whoa, Grace. First of all, congratulations, Financial Mutant. You're a hyper saver there. But I do want to caution you. We love our Financial Mutants. We talk about that's what you're aspiring to be. Did we get Grace's age, by the way?
She said young.
She said young.
Young is a different meaning for me than it is for you.
And she said she's been investing for a few years.
Anybody who's under 50 is young to me. But it's but here's the point. The reason I'm asking for that differentiation is that for people in their 20s, when we tell you need to be saving and investing 25% of your gross income, it's somewhat aspirational. Because I remember when I graduated college in my early 20s, and you're making that first job where you've got the skills, you got the education, but you're not earning your maximum potential. It's hard to tell somebody making, because when I came out of school, I'll just use the example of $28,000 a year to say, Brian, $28,000 a year, go save and invest 25%, because there's a good portion of that probably will get eaten up by debt if you have student loans or anything like that, with rent, with just living, those type of things. So it is aspirational initially that you're trying to, every time you get a pay raise, every time you get a promotion, you're trying everything in your power to get to 25% of your gross income before you reach the age of 30. Grace is already at 50% if we're doing this public math right. You blew past that 25% a long time ago, and now you're quickly approaching. Now, look, first before I pick on you for being an Ebenezer Scrooge, I need to make sure I understand your why. Because if you are a FIRE participant where you think you're going to tap out of the workforce at, say, 45, 50, even 55 years of age, then there might be a why or a purpose for why you're saving at such an aggressive manner. But if your retirement is actually going to be somewhat normal, somewhere between 60 and greater, then I would encourage you to understand the difference between Financial Mutant and miser, because there is a fine line there. Because if you find out
24,
so if you're saving 50% and you're 24 years of age, there's nothing wrong with easing off of the accelerator once you discover that why. Because like I said, if you think you're tapping out at 45 or 50, that's a little different. But if you just love the feeling you get from saving and investing, I also want you to recognize you need to enjoy every phase and decade of your life. I've picked on Bo because as achievers, we go through mental checklists. We're like, hey, in my 20s, I'd like to do this. I'm going to meet somebody. I'm going to, start saving. I'm going to start investing. Maybe I even buy my first home, or maybe that's in my early 30s I do that. We're all going through these mental checklists. I love achievers. They're so driven to succeed, but make sure you slow down, take a deep breath, and actually create some life there too, because you're only going to get one decade of your 20s, one decade of your 30s, and you need to bedazzle each one of those decades so that when you look back at my age and you go, man, I did that well. I navigated both the balance of saving and investing, but also creating great memories that I can feel really satisfied with the decision making. That's how you balance those things, Grace.
Yeah, I think... for me personally, here's what I wish I would have done, Grace. I've always been a really good saver. I wish I would have gone to more movies before kids. I wish I would have done more Tuesday night movies. I'm so glad in my 20s I didn't go buy an expensive, nice car, right? It would have been silly. It wouldn't have made sense. Even if I could have afforded it, I wouldn't have done that. But I probably should have gone to do more movies, right? Before I had kids, because now I can't go to movies on Tuesday nights anymore. I would think through those types of things. Make sure you hit your 25%, because that's what you ought to be doing. But anything above and beyond that, I think it's okay to pull back so long as you define what it is that you like. At this stage presently in my life, I could be saving more money, technically, right? I could theoretically save more money. I like coffee, and so I'm just not going to ever feel guilty about going to buy coffees, even if I know I could do it less expensive. I went and bought a gallon of, Folgers and just, brewed a pot, because that brings me happiness. I enjoy that. It's something I'm okay spending my money on. I think at 24, you got to figure out what those things are and appropriately assign them. Some like fancy, nice luxury car at 24, maybe not the thing that it makes sense to spend money on. Taking that trip or going on that vacation or spending time with those friends or creating those memories, by all means. I don't think that your future self is going to be sad about that. I think actually your future self is going to thank you for that. I'm thinking about your Italy trip, right?
Yeah.
Your self today is so glad that y'all did spend the money and did that trip, because now you have those memories and it's a sweet thing. And I think you have to figure out where that balance exists for yourself and give yourself some grace. Now, for budgeters, it's hard, right? Because you're used to just, if you're saving 50%, I'd pick a number. Hey, I'm going to have $500 in a month or whatever the number is in this like slush fund, and that's going to be my blow money. I'm not going to plan on putting that in my savings or my checking. I'm going to plan on that's my movie money, my eating out money, and you can do those things without any guilt. You can feel okay about spending that money on the things that you desire to spend that money on.
Yeah, I would encourage Grace. It's interesting. We're working on some content and course that would be perfect for this question, because one of the things that we're working on is actually an illustration of you understanding what brings you happiness and your why. Because I do think that, Grace, maybe something you ought to do is just do an exercise, a homework assignment, if you will, where you will write down things that bring you tremendous happiness. And then I want you to ask yourself, are you doing enough of that? Because it's very individualized. I like drinking coffee, but it doesn't matter if I'm buying it at Starbucks or if I'm putting it in this cup. So that's not the same as Bo.
Yeah,
so everybody has a little bit of a different thing. So you need to go through the exercise individually for you. What are the things that you really get a lot of enjoyment out of? And then, are you doing enough of it? Because it's so interesting. It's like buying a fancy car in my 20s and 30s wasn't my thing, but I have a close friend that's a CPA, and I remember he always had a nice car, and that was just his thing, and it didn't blow up his fun. We have a client that he loves Audis. He
likes nice cars.
And he always is buying a super nice Audi every few years, and it worked in nicely still with his savings and investing goals, where it didn't impede his success. You can do the same thing, Grace. You just need to make sure the things that you value, you're doing enough, because you are. I just want to make sure you only get one time through your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. Do it well. I'm super pleased with all the accomplishments of saving 50% of your income. Just make sure that that's going to age well, and that your 50-year-old self is going to look back and go, man, well done, Grace, because you can't take it with you. There's no putting the hearse with the U-Haul trailer on the back. So you just want to balance those things out well.